Talking about dreams. When I got out of school, out of college, I knew I wanted to play ball before I even graduated. I knew I wanted to play pro ball. I didn't have a lot of information though, and I didn't even have it didn't look like that was going to happen based on my background. So when people would ask me, since I knew I wanted to play, they asked me, hey, you about to graduate or you graduated, what are you going to do next? And I say, I'm going to play ball. And they would ask me stuff like, all right, well, where are you going to play? Like, when are you going to get on? What's the process? What do you need to do? What's the next steps? Do you even have teams looking at you? Do you have an agent or a manager, somebody who's going to help you get on? And these are all reasonable, logical, practical questions. And I didn't have good answers for any of them because, honestly, I didn't have any information. I didn't really have a plan. The only thing that I had at that time when I graduated from school, all I had was a goal that I wanted to do it. And I guess they say goals have a goal means you have a plan, right? So I didn't even have a plan. So I guess you could say it was a dream. It was a vision. It was a delusion at that point that's what I wanted to do. But I kept that vision in my mind. Obviously I kept practicing, working on my game when I could around I had a full-time job at the time. I was working at Foot Locker. And eventually it happened. And it got me to thinking today. I mean, that was a long time ago, but it got me to thinking today, why is it that as we get older, whatever age, you could be 50, you could be 35, you could be 22. As we get older, we don't dream like we used to. I mean, you think about a 5-year-old, 8-year-old kid, you ask them what they want to do, and they got these big dreams and these grand visions, these great things that they want to do. They're not talking about doing some small, practical, reasonable, realistic, quote unquote, thing that many of us end up doing with our lives. So what is it? What happens between that age and where we eventually get to, the age that you are today? What changes in us? The first thing that happens is we get a lot of information. We get smarter. We go to school, we read books, we listen to podcasts, we go to seminars, we take notes from wise people, successful individuals. And you know what we learn? We learn how we could possibly fail. We learn about all the setbacks. We learn about all the failure points. We learn about all the possible embarrassments. We learn about all the ways that things could go left and go wrong on us. And the thing is, I read this note once that it said I don't play golf, but they said a young golfer usually could beat the older golfer. And why? The reason why is because even though the older golfer knows the course, has played it more often, has been in the game longer than the young golfer, the problem that the older golfer has is that he knows all the ways he could fail. He knows all the ways he can make a mistake. He knows what it feels like to fail and make mistakes because he's done it before because he played the course so many times. So one of the benefits of being ignorant, and ignorance just means not to know. One of the benefits of not knowing things is that we don't know how we can mess up. We don't know how bad it could get. We don't know that we could possibly fail. We don't know what other people will think of us. Not knowing is actually a really huge benefit for many of us many times in life because we don't consider how we could possibly mess up. And the smarter we get, the more we know about messing up. And that holds a lot of people back from doing what they actually want to do. So for me, back then coming out of school, I didn't know anything. And I was young enough I tell somebody about my ambitions and they smile and say, oh, that's cool. I hope you make it. It was cute, right? Because of the age that I was at that time. I'm just fresh out of college. I don't know anything. But let's say somebody's 30 talking about doing that. You looking at them like, you really think that's going to work? I mean, you 30, you got kids. And you look at them completely different just because they're older. And we look at ourselves different because we get older and because we know so much. Another reason why we don't really do the things that we want to do in life or we stop dreaming the way that we could dream is because experience hardens us. And it kind of goes right with the first point that I made. The more things that we know, the more ways we know we can mess up. And because we have experience, we're like, all right, I don't need to look at things in a new way. I don't need to be different. I don't need to try anything other than what I've already been doing. Look, I got this far with what I've already been doing. Why would I need to change? Why do anything different? Why take a risk? And this is why most people, by the time they get to age, the study says after college, most people never even open a book again. Or a lot of people just get to a certain point in life and they never change. They never get any better. And this is something that I've said on my podcast. After puberty, everybody knows what puberty is, right? That's when your body is physically growing. After puberty ends, nobody grows by default anymore. You're going to just grow by default. You don't even have to eat good food, have good nutrition or anything. You could be eating no fucking government cheese. You're going to grow by default through puberty. But once you hit about age, 21, 25, whatever it is, there is no growth whatsoever that happens involuntarily, meaning you had to choose to step out. You had to choose to do something different. You had to choose to jump out of the box and do something other than what everybody else is doing. And most people, when they get to a certain point in life, they don't make that choice anymore. They never made it before. It just happened automatically back then when you was 15, 17, 19. Once you get to 30, it's not happening for you anymore without you choosing to do something different. And most people, they get that experience that, they've grown by default or they've achieved a certain level of success. They don't want to risk it. They don't want to try anything. They don't want to possibly put that success in jeopardy. So they don't do anything. And that leads to the third thing that keeps people from ever dreaming or having a big goal or exercising their ambition in any way. And we want to live up to expectations. And usually most people will never admit that they're trying to live up to expectations of other people. Or my dad thinks this, or my coworkers, or my family thinks this, or my fans, the people around me. If you happen to be a public figure, they expect certain things from you. We tell ourselves that we need to live up to those expectations of other people, and that keeps us from doing anything different, from ever changing. But you know who the expectations are really coming from? They're coming from within. We unconsciously, we blame expectations on other people. My wife thinks this, my kids need that, my boss is thinking this way, the people in my neighborhood gonna look at me this way, but it's not really them. This is something I've said many times before. Most of the time, people are not even thinking about you. Even when they're talking about you, they're not really talking about you or thinking about you. They're talking about themselves. They're just using you as the easel on which to project their own ideas and their own thoughts and their own feelings. Most of us, actually not most of us, all of us are always, number one, thinking about ourselves. Then when we got a little bit of time, we may throw a little bit of attention to somebody else. So when we think expectations of other people are the thing that's holding us back, it's not that. It's usually always almost actually that expectations that we have of ourselves. We're afraid to step out of doing what we've already been doing because, as they say, humans are creatures of habit. We get into routines and we stick to that routine. And this is, again, how many people never grow once they get past a certain age. Growth is not something that happens. I mean, everybody gets older, not everybody grows, is the saying that I've heard. So sticking to those expectations and those routines, some of them are good. You're in good shape. You got some routines for being in shape. You go to the gym, you eat well, you get enough rest. Those are good things. But we also have routines of thought, routines of habit, routines of association that keep us from ever getting to a higher level. So we always have to be on alert, looking at ourselves and asking ourselves, hey, and this is the question I'll leave you with. We'll wrap it up with this. What dreams did you have when you were, let's say, not even a certain age, because you could be any age watching this, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? What dreams or ambitions that you aspired to back then that was cute for you to talk about then, but if you were to say it now, people would be looking at you crazy? And therefore, you've put them up, you put those dreams away on the shelf and they collecting dust in your closet. You haven't even looked at them in a long time. And the second thing is, what expectations do you have of yourself, from now, let's say the next 15 years? And if you keep going the way that you've been going with your habits of thought and action, where is it going to take you? Just something for you to marinate on. Work on your game.